Good afternoon and welcome everyone. Unfortunately, our minister, Reverend Alice, had an accident in her yard Saturday morning, which has prevented her from being here with us today. As we know, Reverend Alice lives in Huntsville, Alabama, which is where some of the violent weather came through on Friday evening. On Saturday, Reverend Alice went out into her backyard to close a gate which had become open during the storm. She stepped on some boards and one of them snapped and caused a big gash in her leg. She went to an urgent care facility where she received several shots of lidocaine and a tetanus shot, and they were able to put stitches in her leg even though it was a very deep cut. Unfortunately, the doctor told her that she shouldn't drive to Pensacola on Sunday morning due to the possibility of risk of blood clots. So she is okay. She wanted everybody to know that, but that's why she is not able to be here today. She extends her regrets to the Barbas family and to all those in attendance today. So on behalf of Reverend Alice, I would like to welcome everyone to our church. We are pleased that you are here, and as Reverend Alice would say, please put your phones and other electronic devices on worship mode out of respect for others. Our restrooms are located directly behind me and can be accessed by either of the side walkways. If you would like a mask, please raise your hand and one of our greeters will be happy to bring you one. At this time, we will light our chalice to begin our service. In our time of loss, we light a flame of ongoing life. In our shared search for understanding and serenity, we light this sign of our quest for truth, meaning, and community. At this time, Trista Bloom will give our opening words.
When Barbara first came into mine and my daughter's lives in a more intimate way, it was because she heard me share my fears as a newly divorced mother during the Joys and Concerns time at church one Sunday. As I came to witness through the years, this was Barbara's MO. She was the person behind the scenes who took note of those who were vulnerable enough to share their human struggles, reaching out to offer assistance in their time of need, whether that be in a card of encouragement or an invitation to join her for dinner. I would wager that most of you today have been the recipient of her kindness in some form. As someone who lived a full life of 90 years and was more engaged than most people half her age, she demonstrated the power of resilience and a positive attitude. She offered encouragement both in her words but also in her actions. With a spirit of humility, she joyfully served the congregation and the community at large in those areas that many found menial. She did the tasks like serving meals, cleaning up afterward, and making the phone calls nobody wanted to make. It wasn't uncommon to find Barbara in the kitchen or office long after everyone had left, long after the lights were turned out. And she didn't share stories of service with others unless she thought it would be of benefit to them. As I've talked to folks in the community, I've heard time and time again about how little she wanted the spotlight shined on her. She simply wanted to serve, knowing that she was using each day to make others' lives better was reward enough. As we celebrate my dear mom of heart today, I ask that you keep in mind these words by Lone I. Jensen. Between our first cry and our last breath, we string together precious moments of life as pearls on a string. Then something or someone breaks the strand and the pearls scatter everywhere. And we're all on our knees on the floor trying to retrieve something that was precious and is now lost. A human life cannot be restrung. But we can gather together the precious memories and deep gratitude for the time we did have together. I refuse to believe that either God or the universe is cruel. That is a human failing. Instead, I trust that nothing is ever lost. All past and present make up this moment. And now we'll have the pleasure of listening to some special music from Tom Botsford, Chris Saunders, and Laura Keith King, after which we'll hear from Dr. Georgiana Bryant to kick off the time where we'll reflect on the beautiful memories we have of Barbara.
Is this the first one?
Yes. Skies are blue and love dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind. Thank you, Laura. That was beautiful. For those that don't know, Barbara loved Judy Garland, and that was why that song was selected. At this point in our service, normally an account of Barbara's life would be described, including her education and career, as well as activities during retirement. However, I want to use this time to talk about Barbara the person. I first met Barbara and Bill 35 years ago when my husband Tom and I moved to Milton, Florida. At that time, our church was located on Scott Street. My early memories of Barbara were that of service to her church. She was one of the founders of the Charitable Trust, which serves as a savings account to help the congregation maneuver through some financial challenges. She also began the Circle Dinners, which was an opportunity for members to get to know one another better. Additionally, she was one of the members who tried to chat with visitors each week to make sure they felt welcome in our church. And she kept doing that, of course. Besides service, Barbara had enormous giving spirit. She was an early member of Impact 100, which asked professional women to give $1,000 each year for community service projects. Barbara liked this charity because all the funds were used to fund local projects. Barbara and Bill were also significant donors to our church, allowing us to acquire this fine building in the late 90s. Besides being major financial donors to the purchase of this church building, they gave in other ways. The picture that is frequently used to publicize our church shows the beautiful red bud and crepe myrtle trees in bloom, which were given by Barbara and Bill. These donations were always given anonymously. Again, a testament to their giving spirit. Barbara and Bill contacted numerous members asking them to donate to the building fund as well as loan monies to the church so that we didn't have to use commercial lenders. Our building is now paid off in full. Not that many churches can say that. Other significant large financial donations from Barbara given anonymously included the vinyl flooring throughout the church building. I recall one Saturday morning, Barbara, Lori Winterberg, and I all brought our floor shampooer machines to clean the carpet at the church, and it was not easy work. Not too long thereafter, the donation of the flooring occurred. I never knew who the donors were until years later when I chaired the finance team. In my role as finance team chair, I additionally learned that the anonymous donor to fund half the cost of renovating this sanctuary was Barbara, as was the anonymous donor giving about half the funds to replace our church roof with a metal roof for longevity. Barbara also donated 100% of the funds to recently remodel our church kitchen. Barbara and Bill were also major donors to Pensacola Little Theater, as evidenced by the bricks in the walkway up to the theater showing their names. This past week, I learned from a Pensacola Little Theater Guild member who couldn't be here today that each one of those sidewalk bricks represents a $10,000 donation. There are at least 4 bricks with their names. I also learned from this guild member that Barbara served as the installing official for Little Theater new officers for several years. She always created a theme with props like a hat with some other tangible items to make the experience fun as well as meaningful. She continued to buy season tickets each year for her and Bill, even after his death in 2009, so that she had an extra set of tickets to treat someone to a wonderful Little Theater performance. Barbara always found ways she could be of service to any organization she joined. As a close friend of Barbara's, I knew she was donating some funds to the University of West Florida, but in true Barbara style, I had no idea she was such a significant donor until I saw the recent article in the university's foundation report. The article describes Barbara's history of giving over several years to the Historic Trust to restore many aspects of Pensacola's history. Barbara was a longtime resident of Pensacola and wanted to preserve its cultural heritage so that future generations would know its history. Again, in true Barbara style, Barbara not only supported this organization with significant financial gifts, but every Thursday at 11 a.m. for 11 years, she provided tours of this historic area. Her travels to so many countries also documents her interest in the cultural heritage of all peoples. While I may have been a close friend of Barbara's, Barbara had many very good friends, as evidenced by today's attendance at the celebration of her life. Like you, I found Barbara to be a very caring person, a supportive person, a very sincere person, and she always wanted to fix any wrong she encountered. She was very giving of her time anytime someone needed her help. She also supported education of today's youth in any way she could. She knew this would be our future. This is why I believe she liked being a member of Impact 100, as grants are earmarked for education projects as well as for the arts. She was also a good listener and provided good guidance when asked. At a recent church finance team meeting, of which Barbara was a member for several years, members were asked to share one word that described Barbara. Members offered the following: compassionate, gracious, welcoming, indestructible, vivacious, dynamic, ever-present, committed, and generous. We are amazed that any one person can be all of those things, but Barbara was. We are all shocked and surprised by Barbara's passing because she was so vivacious and ever-present. I want to share with you the following thought. When we found her, she was in her apartment, sitting with her head down. I feel if she had been in a lot of pain, she would have been on the floor trying to get to a phone or her emergency pendant. I believe death came quickly without pain, and that thought gives me comfort. I believe her big giving heart finally just gave out after almost 91 years. A life very well lived. Rest in peace, Barbara. At this time, Trista will have the sharing of memories from others.
Thank you, Georgiana. Before we begin, we've got a couple seats here. If I talked to you beforehand that you were going to share and you would like to sit there to, and avoid having to try to crawl over people, it would be okay to do that. Those chairs are there for you. So we'll go ahead and we're going to have an opportunity to hear a few stories demonstrating the ways that Barbara impacted us personally and at the community level. Barbara, being the modest woman she was, didn't want folks to speak for more than a minute during this event. So we'll try to keep our comments to under 3 minutes each. Let's start with Kathy Hodges. Kathy is a member of the 21 Investment Club, of which Barbara was a longtime member. She and her husband, John, were also good friends with Barbara. Kathy?
Thank you, Trista. As Trista said, I'm speaking today on behalf of the 21 Investment Club, in which Barbara was an esteemed member. Ann Brown, our illustrious leader, was scheduled to speak, but in her own words, had a command grandparent performance and couldn't be with us. We told her that is exactly where Barbara would want her to be today. So here I am, and praying that I will do justice for my dear friend. When Chris Kelly of Morgan Stanley, who sponsors the investment club, brought his client, Barbara Goggins, into the club in 2007, little did we know just how much of an impact this special lady would have on each of our lives. Barbara had the most important gift of presence. When she was with you, you had the benefit of her full attention, her wealth of experience, and great common sense. When she spoke up at meetings, we all took note and listened. She gave us good advice and direction. She was a wonderful secretary for our club, efficient, and kept us on our toes. Interestingly, Barbara was scheduled to present the December meeting or program, which was just this past Thursday. And of course, when we found out, we were not at all surprised that she had already planned the program. She had worked with Lori Potasic, also of Morgan Stanley, who works very closely with the club members. So Lori gave the program on behalf of Barbara and did a wonderful job. Barbara, being an educator, had picked several stocks related to education. And so in her memory, we chose to buy shares of one of those stocks. And I'm certain that Barbara was smiling down and gave her nod of approval. Barbara was a strong person of faith who dedicated her life in the most generous way to people and to causes that were close to her heart. If you Googled the word selflessness, you would find Barbara Goggins' name at the top of the list. She became a very dear friend to me and to my husband, John. She was instrumental in our decision to move to Azalea Trace. We saw her often. I will miss her phone calls, and we will miss those dinners. I felt her kindness and wisdom each and every time I had the opportunity to be with her. Oftentimes, I picked her up for our monthly investment club meetings. Gratefully, I had that opportunity for the November meeting that I will always cherish because we had the nicest chat. I happened to mention the article that Georgiana made reference to that was in the UWF Foundation annual report. Barbara, being Barbara, brushed it off and never wanted to call attention to herself. On the drive home that day, she made the comment to me that when it was all said and done, all that mattered was that you had done your very best, given back all that you could, and made a difference. In retrospect, this profound comment summed up the essence of this extraordinary lady's life. Barbara enriched our lives as she diligently lived hers, with love, with strength, with dignity. Well done, thy true and faithful servant. Well done. We will miss you greatly.
Thank you, Kathy. Next, we're going to hear from Rose Cohert, and I apologize if I say your name wrong. Rose was friends with Barbara for over 40 years. They met when they lived in the Twin Oaks subdivision. They served together in the Twin Oaks Women's Club as well as Bridge Club that had been going on for 20 years now.
So nice to see so many of you here. One thing that I haven't heard that I feel I need to mention. Yes, Barbara was witty, she was generous, she was compassionate, but she was also a lot of fun. I first met Barbara, my husband and I had moved to Pensacola. We lived in the Twin Oaks subdivision on the west side of town. And in Barbara's inevitable fashion, she seeks out new people, and there she was welcoming us, the newcomers, and making us feel at home. Barbara and I belonged to the Twin Oaks Women's Club. We often did lunch together, and Even though we had both moved away from Twin Oaks, we were honorary members and tried to stay in touch. And also, Barbara had fun decorating for the various seasons, because as a teacher, many of you know that she had an outfit for every holiday. One of the things my husband Bill and I were remembering about Barbara and Bill were their travels. And as you have all noted, they traveled many, many places and enjoyed themselves. One of the things they did was to take beautiful slides. And shortly after they would come back, you would get a phone call from Barbara saying, "We're going to have a slideshow." Ordinarily, you might have had a friend that mentioned that and you cringed, but you went. With Barbara and Bill, the slides were great, the narration was great, and you were made to feel like you were right there with them on their travels. And they shared so beautifully. Another thing Barbara and I did that was fun was, after we had retired, we decided we wanted to sharpen our bridge skills. So we took a class at UWF Continuing Education, and we had so much fun. We had an incredible instructor, and we remembered some of his famous words and would laugh about that for years to come. But the group was so much fun, we would go in early to practice before the class, and we started a bridge group about maybe close to 20 years ago that is still going today. And we miss her very, very much. She was an incredible person. And the words inside, "Remember me," are so appropriate. We will miss her, but we will think of her and her memories often.
Next, we'll hear from Candy Norman, and she will speak on behalf of her sisters of the Beta Sigma Beta Sigma Pi sorority.
Thank you. Barbara has been our sister in Beta Sigma Phi since 1974. Beta Sigma Phi is an adult sorority with chapters all over the world. With Barbara's sudden passing, thank you. Our chapters at Epsilon finds an empty place where Barbara always shined her light and supported us all. She was so well organized and punctual. When she held a position in our chapter, she got things done and motivated everyone to step up and take care of business. Our favorite programs have been the slideshows of her many travels, including China and Russia, the Arctic, and all of Europe. She also went to South America, and one of her favorites was New Zealand. Barbara shared her love for Pensacola history with us, organizing tours and making orange jelly from the local fruit. One of our sisters attended her first ballet and opera because she wanted to see what Barbara found so exciting. Barbara was contagious. On the other hand, Barbara and Bill loved ice hockey and influenced our chapter to attend Ice Flyers games. Barbara listened well and spoke with insight and respect. I don't think Barbara ever met a person she couldn't find something to like in. She was firm in her beliefs. We all have wonderful stories of Barbara's zest for life and her humor. Over 20 years ago, Barbara mentioned to one of us that she had a bag for each group she worked with. So when it was time to go to that group meeting or get something done, she always had exactly what she needed. Best advice ever. One of the funniest things Barbara ever did with our group Happened at a chapter Christmas party back in the 90s. Wine was involved. Barbara never seemed to drink much, but that night her glass of wine seemed to go to her head. A party game we played involved a fractured version of the 12 Days of Christmas. Everybody took a different day and sang altered words. Rather than 5 gold rings, Barbara was to sing the word finally in 3 syllables. Finally. Each time she sang it, her voice got more shrill and higher. The poised, distinguished Barbara appeared totally snockered singing Rhodos. She was laughing so hard and we were laughing so hard we could barely finish the song. For years after, we teased Barbara that if all else fails, she could always sing, finally. It was even mentioned at our November meeting, and she laughed about it all over again. Sadly, we didn't know it would be our last meeting with her. Barbara epitomized the rays of Beta Sigma Phi's torch of wisdom. She fearlessly pursued the ideals of doing what was right. After reviewing our photos over the years, the evidence of her humility is clear. She was always at the back or the edges of pictures, yet we all agree her vision and enthusiasm for each activity in person was clear and contagious. She served us all with her common sense, unlimited energy, and determination to get things done efficiently. Barbara was a loyal friend to each of us, and in our times of fellowship with her, especially during Christmas time, will always be missed. I personally always liked that my children went to Montclair Elementary School, where Barbara was the reading specialist. She always asked about my children by name, even though they didn't go to her class. As a true sister in Beta Sigma Phi, Barbara was the ideal for the good, the true, and the beautiful. Her personal practice of life, learning, and friendship blessed us all. Barbara was a treasure. She leaves a tremendous empty space in our chapter. It is with a thankful heart we release our beautiful sister to her next life experience. In full appreciation of our times together, we know the light of her torch still shines in our hearts as we remember her. In short, Barbara loved us, and we love her.
Next, we'll hear from Howard Reddy, Vice President of UWF, President of the UWF Foundation, and CEO of the UWF Historic Trust.
Great. Good afternoon, everybody. So I met Barbara in 2016 through my work at the university. And when I met Barbara in 2016, she had already had a relationship with the University of West Florida and the UWF Historic Trust for over 23 years. And in fact, that had begun when her late husband, Bill, volunteered with Dr. Judy Bence doing the archaeological digs in downtown Pensacola. And as has already been mentioned, in around 1993, Barbara began to lead the 11 a.m. tours of historic Pensacola, and she did that weekly for some time. And ever since then, from all the way back in the 90s, she had consistently supported UWF Historic Trust and the University of West Florida. A couple of years ago, with the Luna discovery, there was some important work that needed to be done, and Dr. Benchley, who is here today, we needed to do some work. We reached out to Barbara, and she really made a significant investment to make sure that work happened, but she didn't want any recognition. And as has already been stated here today, certainly she never wanted a fuss, and humility was something that was very important to her. But over the last 18 months, and I was talking to Barbara, I was saying, but you have an understanding and can articulate the importance of preserving history and cultural tourism in a way that's very rare. And in those conversations, I convinced her that to allow us to write the story in the Foundation Annual Report. And so she did finally say, okay, let's do it. And we met downtown and took the photograph and all that. But I'm going to quote Barbara's words. Reading about history is not the same as experiencing it. If we don't preserve what we have, then it's gone forever. I sincerely believe We need to save our cultural heritage. So when she believed in the mission, she made sure that she made an impact. Throughout the pandemic, at the very beginning of the pandemic, before we had the vaccinations, I reached out to Barbara to see how she was doing. Made the phone call and I said, "Well, Barbara, how are you?" She said, "I'm great, I'm great." She said, "At this stage, I'm pretty confident that I have the cleanest and most organized department in Pensacola." Another thing that Barbara, every time we would meet, she would always be concerned that, I needed to, let's do what we need to do, but you need to get back to work. She felt that the work that the university was doing, that the Historic Trust was doing, was important work. And we needed to continue that important work. I also got a sense in our conversations the importance of that life is for living and to go out and make an impact. Barbara was an example to us all. It's a privilege for me that I got that opportunity to spend time with Barbara over these years. She certainly has left a great legacy, and a legacy through her relationship with the university and the Historic Trust that we will continue to enjoy and learn more about over the years. So in conclusion, I would say thank you, Barbara, rest in peace, and now we will certainly go back and continue the very important work.
Next, we're going to hear from Dr. Paula Montgomery. She knew Barbara through our UU congregation and through their time together in the League of Women Voters.
I first met Barbara in 1984 at the church on Scott Street, where she was buzzing around, getting ready to organize the Dinners for Eight, which persist even to today, where we get together in small groups of the church members and just have fun and eat together. But she was, every time thereafter that we had any kind of thing going on at the church, whether it was a wedding or a funeral or just a get-together of some sort, she was there organizing, making sure everything was just right. She was always there. And that's personal recollections. I've been asked to speak for the League of Women Voters as well, and so I'll do that now. Barbara was a member of the League long before I was, and she served on the board of directors for the League. In her capacity as chair of the Education Committee, she ran an initial survey and study of charter schools when they were first being started in the state under Governor Jeb Bush. She ran a local study and found out about what the charter schools were doing, and pretty soon the statewide organization followed up and had a statewide study. What we found out was that charter schools, some of them are good, some of them are not, but in general, they're no better than the public schools. And furthermore, they don't provide transportation in general. And they do not provide help for students who are in trouble. They're not obligated to do anything like that. And so, unfortunately, charter schools have led at least to a partial resegregation of the schools based on ability to pay and that sort of thing. She also, on a happier note, she also served as the chair of the National Resources Committee, and in that role she led to the development of the Perdido River Walk, which was a nature trail on Perdido River located adjacent to the Perdido landfill. The 1/2 acre boardwalk was funded by donors whose names were listed at the site. The trail consisted of wetlands with a floating bridge, hardwood and pine trees, and a variety of species of wildflowers. Of course, since she was an educator, there were markers and brochures available to make the visit informative as well as enjoyable. Unfortunately, we had Hurricane Ivan, and it destroyed the river walk. But the good news is that Escambia County has taken on the restoration, and the information is available on the county's website. I will miss her. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. Next, we'll hear from Michael Newcomb, one of Barbara's chosen family members.
Barbara Grimes knew me my entire life when her and her husband lived in this Twin Oaks subdivision. Their house on 302 Keepwood Circle was my second home, and she was like a second mother to me. She was with me when my mother passed away in 2012. When she would go shopping to the commissary or Navy Exchange, or to pick up her medicine at the Navy Hospital, she would always take the time to come and visit me. She always remembered my birthday and would take me out to lunch or invite me to have lunch or dinner with her at Azalea Trace. She had my 50th birthday celebration at Azalea Trace. It was a privilege to know her, and her passing is a great loss for me and for those who knew and loved her.
Finally, we'll hear from my children, Sophia and Leon Lewin and Chance Evans, Barbara's chosen grandchildren.
Barbara was our grandma. She rooted fine family for us, making it much more than blood. At every one of our special events, like concerts, graduations, and at art shows, Barbara could be found. She was unendingly supportive. I remember when I was in elementary school, we would have Grandparents' Day, but as my grandparents lived far away, I was never able to bring any of them. Well, when I came to know Barbara, I was really happy because I finally had a grandma to spend time with and to show off at Grandparents' Day. Before COVID, we would have dinner practically every week, and then go up to her place after to play long games of Uno or dominoes. Some nights we would laugh until we cried. We had so much fun with her. Barbara loved to take us to plays and musicals at the Little Theater and art shows at the Pensacola Museum of Art. Through these, we got to see Barbara's interests while also learning our own.
Barbara gave us so much insight into the world through the places she took us and her stories. For a school interview, I called her up and I asked her questions. And through those, I found stories she'd never told me before and advice she wished that I could have. We talked for a good hour, and when I left that conversation, I felt like I'd gotten to know her better than I'd ever had before. That would be the last time I'd ever get to talk to her, and I'm so grateful that I got that. Yeah, there's still so much I wish I could say. Barbara, wherever you are, I love you so much. You are the best grandma I could ever ask for. I will cherish every moment that we had. I will never forget your smile or your laugh. I love you.
Thank you, Barbara. I wish you were here so I could give you a really long hug and tell you how much I love you and how much you mean to me. Thank you for all the time and memories we shared, and I truly love you.
I'd just like to say, I wish Barbara was here right now, but she passed away. And I remember the last time I saw her, we had a picnic at the back porch, and we ate pizza. But we couldn't get in because the doors were locked. And I remember her so much. Thank you.
I didn't tell you ahead of time that I would like to say a couple of words, but Barbara was very special to me. I knew her long before I became a member of this church. When I would come to visit my mother, who lived in Pensacola and didn't want to go to her Methodist church, I would come to the church on Scott Street, and that's where I first met Barbara. Over the years since then, she has become for me this church. I can't think of this church without thinking Barbara, and vice versa. But when I came here, moved here to Pensacola and became a member of this church, I soon found that we were part of a group that had a Northeast connection and an Irish connection. Dick and Larry and Kelly and Leslie and Ray and a few others that I can't think of at the moment. Anyway, we would get together often and always on St. Patrick's Day. So she's very special to me, and I'll miss her greatly. Thank you.
I'm Laura Keith King, and this is Kate Wolverton. We sang this song this morning, and as I was singing it, I thought, this is a song for Barbara. So we wanted to sing it again, even though it's not on the program. There will be more sharing. See? We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and the time to be alive in this great turning. We shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and the time to be alive in this great turning. We shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love.
All right, what a beautiful legacy Barbara has left for all of us, as seen the stories of those she impacted. Before our closing words, let's enjoy some more music.
so wonderful. I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue, clouds of white, the bright blessed day, and dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of the people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? There I say, I love you. I see babies cry, I watch them grow. They learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Thank you, Tristan. I'm Tom Boxford, a member of the fellowship, and now that I've heard these stories, I understand why I always felt such a strong charisma from Barbara Goggins. Everybody I see feels that as well, and from my beginnings here back in the early 90s, she and her husband Bill were just model members, inspirations, and supportive of many things, but also I thought Barbara was very thoughtful and could be critical and skeptical at times. And she appreciated also programs that required a little more thinking than ordinary. Of course, like looks at books and things like that, and always was encouraging of intellectual activity here. As far as I can tell, and correct me if I'm wrong, you might call Barbara a humanist of sorts. A very good one, as a matter of fact. I hope a couple of things we play worthy of her. One thing I'd like to try is somewhere, there's a place for us, the West Side Story, and then the New Orleans Closer Walk, this whole walk.
Thank you, guys, folks. All right, in our closing words, as we close up our time together today, for these words by Kathleen McTeague. they are with us still. In the struggles we choose for ourselves, in the ways we move forward in our lives and bring our world forward with us. It is right to remember that names of those who gave us strength in this choice of living. It is right to name the power of hard lives well lived. We share a history with those lives. We belong to the same motion. They too were strengthened by what had gone before. They too were drawn on by the vision of what might come to be. Those who lived before us, who struggled for justice and suffered injustice before us, have not melted into the dust, have not disappeared. They are with us still. The lives they live hold us steady. Their words remind us and call us back to ourselves. Their courage and love evoke our own. We, the living, carry them with us. We are their voices, their hands, and their hearts. We take them with us, and with them choose the deeper path of living. Please join us for refreshments and to raise a glass to an amazing woman, and go in peace, joy, and love, dear friends.